Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Leadership opportunities present themselves in many ways. And regardless of whether or not you are in the workforce or you're in government, or maybe you're in the education system, or you are running a household of one. There are many times as a leader, we feel disconnected from the people we lead, and maybe even disconnected from ourselves, or disconnected from our mission. And what does this look like? It looks like leadership, and at the same time, we're losing ourselves. We're going to explore this topic today on A Woman's Prerogative. Welcome and thank you for joining us. If you haven't done so, please consider subscribing to both of our YouTube channels, USA Global TV and Radio, and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. We'd really appreciate it. Joining me for this lively discussion is the brainchild of this topic, Mariska, who is a day ahead of us and a season ahead of us in Australia. Let's welcome her to the program. Hello, Mariska.
Hello, Dr. Jacalyn. Yes, and indeed, a season ahead. I'm still in winter, or I am in winter. You guys are going into fall one of these days.
That's right. It's still summer here. In fact, where I am, we have a tornado watch. So I'm looking out the window, literally watching. But yes, it is summer, soon to be fall. So I'm really glad that you brought this topic up, because I think that there are many times in life when we feel disconnected from ourselves, from our mission, from our family, and it's almost like we're losing ourselves. So let's get started. First of all, what is your role when it comes to leadership, and who do you help?
Well, my role when it comes to leadership is I don't only work with people in leadership, I am also partaking in leadership myself. So I am part of the ICF Australasia chapter leadership team. So getting my own feet wet, so to speak, within the leadership space. And I also work with leaders, either stepping into leadership or stepping up in their leadership space, where we have a lot of these conversations where we might be asked to do something, or we might need to lead the organization through a specific change or process, and it doesn't feel in alignment, or it just, there's something that's off, and we might be feeling like we are losing ourselves. So hence why I thought it might be good for us to have that discussion today here on this platform and see what comes out. So I'm very excited about that.
I am too. You know, sometimes people will say to me, I don't know how you accomplish as much as you do, which I don't know how they know what I'm accomplishing or not accomplishing. But in a leadership role, we really have to start with ourselves. We have to be a leader of one. And that means we have to be right in our mind, if that makes sense. And we have to set boundaries, and we have to be ready for when opportunities present themselves. Because what I found is when we don't take opportunities, we can feel disconnected from ourselves or even lost, because we know that we could have walked through the door or opened the window to opportunity, and we chose not to. And we basically become our own worst enemy. What are your thoughts?
I so agree with that. And I had an experience just this week where there was a decision that we needed to make. within my leadership space itself. And I got myself going in circles, wondering whether I'm making the right decision, wondering whether some other people might have better ideas than I have, those small little voices of doubt. And I think when those pop up, we have a tendency to go, oh, wow, am I on the right track? Am I cut up for this thing? Are we doing the right thing? Especially when we are these days, particularly in times that everything isn't clear, right? We can play to the status quo, or we can change it up and we can do something else. And it's not always easy to decide which one to do. Do I just continue on the track that I'm on? Or, as you mentioned, Dr. Jacalyn, is there a window or a door that's open with some possible opportunity? And do I actually go for that and see what happens, even if I'm uncertain, without then losing myself in the process? So, Dr. Jacalyn, for you, how might this have shown up?
One thing I think it's important to really highlight is the fact that when we don't know ourselves and we're not working on ourselves and do not have a clear vision or mission, we can become very lost in helping other people. And an example that I'll give is, and it might sound counterintuitive, but if you think about it, I've known people who weren't sure what to do with their lives. And they started volunteering, which is always incredible, to help other people. And they became so engrossed in volunteering that they lost all their income because they weren't actually focused on making money. They kind of thought, oh, well, I feel better about what I'm doing over here, which in a way is finding yourself. But at the same time, they didn't take an approach where they were protecting their livelihood. And so they got lost. And it's very easy to get lost, especially with social media. And, I love social media in some ways because we're on social media as one of the places where we are. But looking at what everyone's doing and how well everyone's doing, that can be really demeaning if you don't believe in yourself. And so we have a tendency to also get lost when we see other people that we imagine are doing so much better than we are.
I love the word we imagine. We don't know, right? It's a imagined perception of what might be happening in their world. And we only see the highlight reels, literally. We only see the good stuff. We don't see when they bog down, when they in the middle of the night tossing and turning and wondering, what do I do next? Because for some odd reason, as humanity, we've decided that that's not something that we want to talk about. No. Nobody goes through that. What are you talking about? It's easy. You just do this thing and then problem solved. But that's not the case. If you were ever in the interest of that is what happens in real life, guys, no. Does not happen in real life. Everybody has something going up around there or there that they need to work through. And even when they have worked through it, because, we do see with people that's maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit wiser, that they have worked through some of it. There's still stuff they're working through. They haven't got it all figured out. Otherwise, they would grow wings and not be on this planet. So if you're on this planet, you're working through stuff. Let's make that a norm. We are all working through something, and we need to remember that. I think I forget that too, a lot.
No, it's a very good story, and I'm looking at a huge window right now. I don't see any winged people flying by. So I think also we work on ourselves, and then we grow, and then a new challenge, a new opportunity comes. And so I think what's really key is realizing it is possible to lose ourselves in our work. We can become so absorbed, or in our relationship. I know when I was growing up, I was always so obsessed with the guy that I was dating. Oh, I wonder if he loves me. I wonder if he's going to call. I wonder. Now I'm just like, please don't even call. Just leave me alone. But it's so possible to get really caught up in things that we lose ourselves. And when we lose ourselves, we could have days, weeks, months, years of our life that go by. And it's not until maybe someone points it out to us, or we happen to be in a situation and we look at ourselves and go, wow, I can't believe that I've been so absorbed with XYZ that I neglected all these other things. And it's a very common thing in work. When a person, it doesn't matter what your gender is, you're working to get ahead, and maybe you're working for someone else, you own your own business, and you're putting in so many hours, and you lose track of the fact that you're not taking care of yourself. So this can really permutate in so many different ways that I think it's important to first realize that it is possible and likely that we will lose ourselves along the course of our journey.
Yeah. And I think it's, for me in any case, it is cultivating that practice that helps me just get back to what is important to me. What's the thing that I'm trying to build, accomplish, do within this? How do I actually want it to feel? I've been really focusing on that for the last year and a bit now, is not only the steps to take, because for some of us, and I'm not saying for everybody, but for some people, it's really easy to go, okay, this is the goal and these are the steps and we'll just make it happen, right? And then they get consumed, as you said, Dr. Jacalyn, and lose themselves in those steps. They don't see anything else. And of course, we sit with the problem that potentially if everything doesn't work out just the way that we want it to work out, then of course we feel like the whole thing was a waste, like everything is falling apart, which it's not. It's just not working out the way that you thought it will work out, but it's still fine. So there's that problem potentially, and we might need to reevaluate where we are at each step of the way. And one of the things that I noticed recently for myself and my own system is having meetings with other people and noticing that my system is telling me something and then overriding it and going, oh no, I don't have time for you right now. I can't listen to you to just breathe, right? I need to finish this conversation, or we need to finish this meeting, whatever the thing is. Instead of going, oh no, that's what my system is telling me to do. And it's maybe not only for me. It might be for the other people in my system. So if I have the courage to go, can we stop and just take a breath? That's it. We don't need to finish the conversation, and the person that was speaking, we still want to hear what it is that you're saying. But can we just, as a group, stop, take a breath, ground ourselves in whatever way it is that you do that, right? I'm not going to prescribe a way for you to do it. Just do something that would help you. And then we go back into the conversation. And that would make such a big difference. I know for my own system that would make such a big difference. And yet we don't do it a lot. So Dr. Jacalyn, that makes me wonder, what is techniques that you use when you feel like maybe you lost yourself a little bit along the way to bring yourself back to center?
I remember my why. I go back to, why is it I'm doing this? And a good example is writing books. I've written and published, 26, 7, 8 books. And I have 2 books that are due out. And one of them, I had to push the date back because I've got a lot going on. And to write a book, you can get very lost in that because it requires your full attention and focus. And sometimes I can get so deep in the writing that other things start to drop. And I don't really have the option for that, because some people are really blessed in that they're full-time writers and this is what they do all the time. But for me, I write books because I'm going to be speaking somewhere or it's in alignment with something I'm teaching. I don't write books just because I want to become famous and rich, because that's not happening for me when it comes to writing books. So when I am writing a book, what I will do is I will put it on my calendar that I'm going to spend so many hours, which is why I pushed out the book release date so that I have an extra month to work on it. But I'll put it on the calendar that I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And I only spend a certain amount of time on each thing. And so then I'm accountable, plus I'm responsible for doing what it is I said I was going to do. But I'm going to give myself a little more time, because at the end of the day, what's the rush?
Yeah. And I mean, that's the beauty of all of this, right? We are setting it up for ourselves. So we are making up whatever the rule is that we made up. Yes, some of them might be societal rules. I get that. And also remember, we made it up as a society, so it can be changed. But it's realizing that we have these deadlines and they can be changed. It's not impossible to change them. So I love the fact that when you see that potentially something around your system isn't quite working the way that it should, a way to go back to it is listening to your why, or asking yourself why again, and making sure that that is in alignment. Do you have any other tips or tricks for us?
I think another thing that's really important is, as humans, we have a tendency to look in the past. And we might not mean to do it, because I'll do it sometimes too. And you bring something up from the past, which, we have a new TV show, which just is a selfish plug. It's called Lessons in History. So I think it's important that you look at history and you learn from it. But if you're spending so much time lost in the past, which people do, something traumatic happens, and then they want to go back to when things were different, the way they were before. But the truth is, usually when something traumatic happens, things were maybe not the way you wanted them to be anyway. But we look back on it and it always seems to be different than we remembered it at the time. And I'll give an example. It might seem trite, but I have on my phone photographs that go back to 2012. That's the final, the deadline of how many photos, I guess, how far it goes back. And I remember when I look at photos of myself from 12, 13, 14, 15, I remember thinking to myself, I hate the way I look. And all these years later, I look at my pictures today and I go, oh, I hate the way I look. But when I think back, when I look at those photographs and I remember where I was at the time, and I think, oh my gosh, it seems so much better then. But I wasn't happy with how it was then either. So it's really kind of a learning experience that we tell ourselves these stories. And so in order not to get lost, I catch myself and I'll say, that's a story you're telling yourself, because it's kind of an excuse, because we don't really want to do the work, right? Looking within, making changes is not easy. And then once we've made them, usually we're pretty happy about it, but it's actually getting to the point where we're taking action, because we don't take a lot of action when it comes to making changes. We talk a lot about it, but then we just forget about it. We just complain about it. We just talk about something else. What are your thoughts about that?
It really reminds me of the cognitiveness of the thing. So talking about the change, going, oh yeah, I've got the plan for this thing and I'm going to do it this way and this way and this way. And talking about it a lot, or ruminating about how to do this or how it was. But the only thing that really helps us to see how it might feel, because we might have an idea of something that would be different. And Dr. Jacalyn, I know that you were in corporate and now you have your own business. And I'm sure that when you were in corporate thinking about having your own business and the reality of having your own business is two different things. And that's typically what happens, I think, to all of us, is that's why we are in a body on this planet, is to have the visceral experience of the thing, understanding how it works cognitively and actually living through it and experiencing it with our system. So the whole of you, two different things entirely. I might know exactly how to regulate my system, how to have emotional, intelligent conversations, how to handle conflict. Now, I know how to do it cognitively, but once I step into a conversation where I need to use any of those tools and I haven't practiced them, I'll be a little bit out of my depth. I won't know what to do because guess what? Automatically, my whole system goes into auto mode, right? So whatever is programmed into it already, that's just going to do that. And I didn't program any of the things that I think I learned into the system. Very different processes. So I think that's something that we don't always think about. I mean, reading how to ride a bike and actually going outside, getting on a bike and riding a bike, two different things. And that's life for everything.
I agree with you. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think also there may be certain times of the year that we tend to lose ourselves. And some people are huge. I don't know if you celebrate Halloween in Australia, do you?
Very lightly.
Lightly.
Not nearly as intense as I have seen on shows for the US.
Yes. Well, so I know people who get totally lost in Halloween. It's a big holiday for them. They start decorating, preparing months in advance. The Christmas holidays, the New Year's holidays, the birth of a child, a new relationship. It's sort of like it takes over everything because my father always had an expression which sounds kind of crazy, but he would say, new is new. There's nothing like something that's brand new, right? A new broom sweeps clean. And so we can get lost in all of that. But when we go back to our why are we doing this? What are we looking to accomplish? How do we want to feel? Then I think it helps us rein it back in. And I think also looking at, are we coming from a place of chaos or are we coming from a place of stability and peace? And again, it goes back to what I'm always talking about with structure and discipline. When you have certain guardrails in place, boundaries that you're using to protect yourself and what it is that you're doing and your mission and your vision, you can always come back to the boundaries. And, I stepped over a little bit. I've got to rein myself back in. And I think that's really empowering when we realize ourselves that we can bring ourselves back to where we need to be when we start to get lost. Because think of it this way, and I am not an explorer, I'm not an adventurer, I'm not going to be going in the jungle, but if a group of people decide that they're in the jungle, I don't know why they decide that, but they are going to go looking for food. Typically what they'll say is, let's come back to this spot, right? Everybody make sure that, let's put some markers on this spot or have a compass, and however far, what direction you go, make sure you come back to this spot. And it's the same thing in life. When we start to get lost, let's come back to our foundation. And our foundation, again, is our why. And if we feel that our why has changed, which certainly can evolve, then we have to reevaluate and get back on track with a new plan and a new why.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point for the guys going exploring, I like exploring. I'm not sure about the jungle, but I enjoy exploring. We might go back to the same place so that we have a point where we know, okay, so this is what we have explored so far. But the road that we will travel away from it might not be traveled yet, right? So we need to look and be adaptable and see how things go. So it's understanding. I think for me, it's understanding what is the structure that I have that I need to come back to, that helps me to ground, that helps me to come back to me not feeling lost. What's that? And then what's those other things where I need to adapt, I need to change, I need to be able to do all of these other in-between things in order to also have a good exploratory experience. because it is an exploration, and there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes up that you might not expect, like snakes and bugs and animals. Who knows? Who in the jungle?
Very true. Very true. Well, let's go back to the jungle example. So I think something else that's really important so we don't lose ourselves is having clarity. And so the clarity is, as a leader, we make sure that each person understands what is your role. You're going to go to the river and you are going to look for fish, and you're going to take Susan and Bob with you, and they're going to help you. And each one of you has your own role when it comes to catching the fish, cleaning the fish, and then coming back to this spot. And for people like myself who would, if I was in the jungle, I don't care how much I'm talking to people about keeping it together. I don't think I would be together because I would be terrified of snakes and spiders and all the things at night that kids think are under their bed. But having that clarity as to why you're there. So in other words, your mission is to leave the camp and go with these two people and look for berries, and don't eat any of the berries, just bring them all back, or your role is to start the fire. So everyone understands this is the clarity that you need so that you are comfortable with what you've been tasked to do. So instead of losing yourself by being terrified of the big bad wolf that's out in the jungle, you know that you're on a mission to get berries. You're going to collect them. You're not going to get distracted, and you're going to report back to base camp. And so I think that also helps, that when you have that clarity, you have a time frame, collect as many berries as you can, bring them back within half an hour, and then a disclaimer, do not eat. So it's pretty clear about what your role is, and you come back to base camp and then you feel safe again. So it's the same thing in life. When we get out of our comfort zone, we typically don't feel safe anymore. So knowing that we could explore an opportunity, for example, and then if it doesn't work for us, we can come back to our foundation and our base.
Dr. Jacalyn, as you were speaking, I was wondering, what do you know? Well, say for instance, we take our jungle, right? And we literally got dropped in the middle of it. So we have no idea where the rivers would be, where the berries might be, what might be in there, snakes, bugs, all the rest of the things. Well, it is a jungle, so wood should be fairly easy to find. Whether it's dry is a different story. So how then do we go about, I mean, it's a little bit difficult to tell people, well, you're going to go to the river, because we don't know where the river is. But we might use a different approach that can help us. But I don't know what that would be. So any ideas?
Well, I think, first of all, if you and I get dropped in the jungle, you've got a real problem, because I'm not going to be helpful at all. just so you know. But in that case, I would say, as if I were the team leader, let's all stick together instead of people going off and exploring, because we don't know the landscape, right? We don't know the potential. We don't know the weather. We don't know which way the sun's rising and setting, and we're not familiar with the territory. So I think that makes sense in real life too, that you work together as a team. And maybe as a team, you start exploring all in the same direction. Maybe you're linking arms or holding on to one another, but you look to the left, you look up, you look to the right, but we're all safe because we're together. And then share what it is. Just yell out, what is it that you're seeing? And then we can collectively put that information together and say, okay, well, if the sun is rising in the east and it's setting in the west, then that must mean the river. I don't know how that goes, but I'm sure there's some correlation with the waves and the moon and the whole thing. So I think working together as a team and being observant is another way not to get lost in our own minutia, which can be anything. And as you know from the segment that you did with emotions and that chart that you have, there are so many levels and names of negative emotions that when things are not going our way and we feel very much afraid and unsettled and we don't have a why, it's all negative. And that negative, especially in a team, it can just start to breed. If you think about your linking arms with people, it goes to the next person and the next person and the next person. And so you want to avoid that.
So it sounds like potentially collaboration would be good as a guideline, right? So collaborating and then noticing our own systems while we are collaborating, because as you mentioned, we are linking up in our collaboration, which means we will also distribute whatever good or bad emotions, not that they are good or bad, but the ones that might be more helpful and less helpful throughout the whole system, because of the fact that emotions are contagious. Yes, I know that you might not think that emotion is contagious, but go and look at a laughing baby and try not to smile.
Well, it's true, especially when someone walks into a room, you can feel their energy, and that can bring everybody down. So I think when we're talking about leading without losing yourself, sometimes it is important to lose yourself. And what I mean by that is you can let go. You don't have to hold it all together every moment of the day, because sometimes when people see that you're a real person and you're experiencing certain things, then that lets people know they can be genuine. But at the same time, as the leader, you don't want to act like you have it all together and then you start crying, or you have it all together and you start yelling. People don't realize, or maybe they do, that anger and yelling usually is a front for pain, insecurity, inferiority complex, not being good enough. And as a leader, sometimes we feel that we don't even have the right to lead. Why was I put in this position? What is it that I know? But I know for myself, I see things in people that people don't necessarily see in themselves, and they don't feel that they're worthy to be in a leadership role. And I know they have everything that it takes. And so I work with them, and then eventually it comes out in the person. And I'm glad that I did. So the point is, you can be humble. You can be real. You can let people know, listen, I don't have all the answers, but I'm working on finding a solution. As opposed to, oh my gosh, I'm terrified right now. I don't know what I'm going to do, because really nobody wants to hear that. When you're the leader, people are like, I'm so glad he or she has it together, instead of, we're doomed. It's over. Nobody has this under control. So somebody has to be at peace and not lose themselves and hold it together. And when everything is said and done and the solution's found and everyone feels safe, you can then bring up, listen, I was scared, you know what, list. I was actually in a complete panic mode, but I have tools so that I can keep it together and be a real leader.
I think that's very important. The fact that you have tools. So one, as a leader, we need to have tools, right? So that we can help ourselves get grounded, even in the face of uncertainty. And that's the one thing with all the leaders that I work with. No one has all the answers. No one expects you to have all the answers. It's not possible, right? Again, you would have had wings and not be on the planet. So don't put that pressure on yourself. You don't need to have all the answers. The only thing that people ask of you is, do you have tools that you can at least regulate your own system a little? And if you cannot regulate your own system for whatever reason, have enough self-awareness to go, you know what, at the moment, I am struggling to regulate my own system, which means in all likelihood, the rest of us are struggling to regulate our systems. Let's take a beat, right? Just take a breath, disengage just a tad, so that we can either as a group get ourselves grounded or individually get ourselves grounded, but that's evidently required, is listening to ourselves. And then being able to, as you mentioned, not control, not hold on so tightly, but actually have the freedom to surrender, not abdicate, but surrender to whatever is coming up, so we can see what might be possibilities. There might be something brilliant that somebody else see in the group. As the leader, we don't need to have that, but we need to have our eyes open, our ears open, and preferably our mouth shut.
Absolutely. And just to tag onto that, as a leader, sometimes we need our own time out. Sometimes we need to walk away, leave the room, hang up from a call, and actually just process what's going on, calm ourselves down, and bring us back to the team why. And I really admire people when they say, I'm taking a few hours for myself. I'm taking the weekend, or I'm going to step out of this conversation and I'm just going to go just have some time by myself. Because to me, that means that they're really taking it seriously. They really do care, as opposed to losing control of your emotions, screaming and yelling, nothing gets accomplished, bad mouthing people, blaming this and blaming that. That is one thing that for me, in the role that I'm in, when people are bad mouthing other people, I don't care if it's politicians, world leaders, et cetera, et cetera. I think to myself, how do you know that you could do it better? Because right now, all you're doing is sitting on the sidelines and judging. And I think that that is not a place that I want to be. I think people should take action and do things in their own life. Because having information about what's going on in the world, we know that we can only control our own life. But yet, our own life is a mess. And all we want to do is critique and insult other people. Well, what's the expression about glass houses? It's like clean up your own side of the street before you start throwing rocks and hurling insults to other people. And I think people really forget that.
Yeah. It's also one of Ken Wilber's books that he wrote on finding radical wholeness. One of the things is cleaning up. And by cleaning up, he really means that we need to look at our own shadow work, our own things that we need to work on. And to your point, the throwing stones and glass houses and cleaning our own side of the street, typically what happens for most humans is if we see something in somebody else that we don't like, it's in all likelihood not that that person has it by themselves, but there's a small little thing in us that's also projecting on that person. So now that person has it twice as bad because they have mine and they have their own. So it looks a lot worse than it actually is because I projected it onto them in addition to their own thing. I'm not saying that their own thing isn't there. It might still be there, but they're not the only one with it. I also have it. So I need to almost, while I'm going through life and I notice these things happening, I need to sort of go, okay, I'm noticing this person is irritating me, or I'm noticing this person, I really don't agree with them because they're doing these things and it's horrible. And then go, okay, so what of that do I actually have within me that I might be projecting? And when we don't necessarily have as much of it, or it is not separated from us as much, then it becomes a non-issue for us. It becomes okay, this person is just being them. And I'm not saying that it's good, and it's not necessarily that it's going to impact me all that much because it's not something that I need to work on. So we are all walking each other home. We just need to remember that that is part of our own work. And the only person that can fix us is us. I can't fix anybody else except myself.
I love that part. We're all walking each other home. And right now we're going to be walking ourselves out of this broadcast. Mariska, what is the best way people can reach you and who would you like to contact you?
So if you are a leader stepping into leadership, or you are stepping up in your leadership journey and you might be in a space or place where there's a lot of uncertainty happening, you are more than welcome to contact me so that we can work through that. You can do that via my website, which is journey2discover.com. So journey2discover.com. Or alternatively, you can also find me on my email, which is Mariska, Mariska, at journey2discover.com. Or you can also find me on, social media, the thing that we have so much love for. And the place that you can find me is on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, I am Mariska de Preez, or if you are not so closely connected, I think I show up as Mariska D. And I have a bookshelf at the back. So if you see that profile, you will know that you have the right Mariska, and you can start our conversation via sending me a message, and we can start conversing and seeing how it is that we can help each other out.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mariska. And thank you to our audience once again. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channels or you're watching somewhere else, please go over to YouTube. And the reason being, they translate our content in up to 27 different languages, my understanding is. And also, we have playlists where you can find all of our shows. It makes it very easy. So we'd love to have you in our community. We will be back next week at the same time in the same place with another episode of A Woman's Prerogative. And we're going to close out the show today with a message from Dr. Alkistis Agio, whom I will be seeing soon in Greece. Let's take a look.
Which of these 5 statements sounds mostly like you? 1. I often wake up in the middle of the night worrying about my future. 2. I'm angry or resentful towards a specific person. 3. I have anxious, obsessive, compulsive thoughts throughout the day. 4. I have an addiction like smoking, drinking, shopping, sugar, or social media. And 5, I feel that I'm wasting away my life. Hello, I'm Dr. Alkistis Agio, and for over 25 years, I've been coaching and training people from all over the world to transform their fears, insecurities, anxiety, and anger into mental and emotional freedom. I'm confident that my simple 3-step method based on Greek philosophy can help you to transform into the joyful, confident, free human being that you deserve to be. I want to invite you to join my weekly online coaching group to finally get the results that you want. Look, you've tried it alone so far, and you've had some okay results. But let's face it, you're still feeling stuck right now, spinning your wheels. Einstein said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Now, unless you realize this as a fact, that you are a prisoner of your own mind, you can't move forward. I'm here to support you, as well as the whole community that we are co-creating. Stop feeling stuck. Stop feeling depressed. You don't have to do it alone, and alone isn't working anyway. Sign up today, and I'll meet you on the inside of our amazing weekly group call. I guarantee that you'll make progress from the very first session.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.